station.
Being good isn't good enough. You have to dig deeper. Deliver. It's a whole new ball game.
For Dodger Baseball, live from Dodger Stadium, KCAL 9 presents the Dodgers as they take on the San Diego Padres. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Wednesday to you, wherever you may be. The San Diego Padres have not only won 2 in a row, they win tonight. They will have swept the Dodgers for the first time in Dodger Stadium since 2006. If they do it, the Padres will have Chase Headley in the lineup, and the Los Angeles Dodgers will not have Matt Kemp in the lineup. Kemp will have the night off to rest and just take a look at the game. Headley, making his debut this year, had a magnificent season last year. He led the league in RBIs with 115. He was a Gold Glove, and for good measure, he was an All-Star. So the Padres get a lift with Headley back in the lineup. On the mound tonight, Clayton Kershaw has beaten San Diego 4 straight. He is 8-3 lifetime against them. He comes in with a record of 2-1. Tyler Ross, formerly with Oakland, traded to San Diego. He's 0-1 with the Padres. So we'll get to the ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this. is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. We make it easy. And by the Jim Beam Bourbon Burger with bacon, onion straws, and pepper jack cheese, all slathered in Jim Beam Bourbon sauce. Only at Carl's Jr. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you. Welcome to Dodger Stadium. The headline before the game, Matt Kemp is not playing, and Chase Headley is. Before the game, Don Mattingly was saying that Matt wanted to play. We're trying to help him feel as much as anything else. A couple of good at-bats will turn it around. From his body language, I thought it would help for him to watch a game. So Matt Kemp is not in the starting lineup. Meanwhile, Chase Headley, who had such a huge year last year, will be starting at third base for San Diego. Clayton Kershaw, who has beaten the Padres 4 straight, looking for his 9th win against them. And Chris DeNorfia looks at a strike, and we're underway. DeNorfia, in the last 14 games against the Dodgers, hitting .341. Before that, he was hitting about .110 against them. Waves at a pitch down, and the count no balls and 2 strikes. DeNorfia played center field last night despite the winds, did a good job, and he's back in center field tonight. Also last night, he had 2 singles and a double. Kershaw into the windup, and the strike 2 pitch down and away to the backstop, ball 1. Lovely evening, no wind. Last night was a rarity. The wind blew the whole 9 innings. Right now, a zephyr stirring the flag, and 67 degrees at the start of the game. 1-2 to Chris DeNorfia. Here comes Kershaw. Big curveball hit off the end of the bat to the right side to Mark Ellis, who throws him out. We'll take a look now at the Padre lineup while we have a moment. DeNorfia leading off. Then you have Everett Cabrera at short. The return of Chase Headley, and that's a big news story in San Diego. He's at third. Jesus Guzman in left field. Yonder Alonso at first. Jed Jerko at second. Kyle Blanks in right. Nick Hundley behind the plate. Tyson Ross on the mound. So with 1 away, Everett Cabrera checking in. The shortstop hitting .264. And if he gets aboard, he's a threat to run. He had 44 stolen bases last year to lead the league. Cabrera last night, the Dodgers shut him down. 0 for 4, struck out twice, but did steal a base. And the pitch to Everett swung on, popped in the air, foul off to the right and out of play. So Clayton Kershaw, 8-3 lifetime against San Diego. He's beaten them 4 straight, and he is 2-1 coming into the game. We'll give you some idea of what the Padres have done in the past. For instance, Everett Cabrera is hitting .091 against Kershaw, 1 for 11. And the fastball is looped into shallow left center. Going out to get it and making the catch is Justin Sellers. So Cabrera, a little pop fly to shallow left. We'll take a look at the Dodgers with the leather, and they shape up this way. Gonzalez and Ellis, Sellers and Punto, Crawford, Schumacher, and Ethier. A.J. behind the plate handling Kershaw. And now Chase Headley. Headley, a wonderful player, switch hitter, batting right-handed against Kershaw. And Clayton's fastball grounded to third. Up with it is Punto across the diamond, and there you have it. A 1-2-3 inning for Clayton Kershaw. Padres go quickly, and at the end of half an inning, San Diego nothing. Dodgers coming up. Take a look at Don Mattingly's card, and the names are pretty familiar. Carl Crawford leading off in left, and Mark Ellis at second, Andre Ethier in right, and Adrian Gonzalez hitting cleanup at first base. A.J. Ellis, however, moves up to the 5 slot. Skip Schumacher replaces Matt Kemp. Nick Punto is at third. Justin Sellers, the shortstop, and Clayton Kershaw on the mound. On the mound for San Diego, his name is Tyson Ross. He is 6'6", about 230 pounds. He's 26 years old. He was born in Berkeley and grew up in Oakland. Played little sandlot ball very close to the Oakland Coliseum. Always wanted to pitch for Oakland, and finally was drafted by the A's out of the University of California and eventually traded to San Diego. And his first pitch in for a strike to Carl Crawford. Crawford hitting .392 with a home run, 2 runs batted in, having a big series, 4 for 8. Back comes Ross, and the pitch is low and inside, 1-1. So Crawford followed by Mark Ellis and Andre Ethier, and the big right-hander Tyson Ross, who works from the first base side of the rubber, and his 1-1 pitch, and that's a little high, ball 2, 2-1. Tyson Ross drafted by the A's and wore number 66 because the Coliseum is at 66th and he's 14th, but he has changed the number in the big leagues. He now wears number 38. He majored in American Studies at the University of California, and what's nice for him, his younger brother was a first-round pick 2 years ago by the Padres, working his way up the ladder. Meanwhile, the next pitch evens up the count and then goes above, and it's 3-2. Waiting on deck, Mark Ellis, 3-2 pitch, sprayed foul off the protective railing in front of the Dodger dugout. So a full count to Carl Crawford. You get a lot of pitches from Tyson Ross. They tell me he has the 4-seam fastball. He also has a cutter. He has a curveball, a slider, and a changeup. And the 3-2 pitch swung on, a hopper to short. Cabrera is on it and throws him out. 1 away, and the batter will be Mark Ellis. By the way, we have a displacement as far as the roster is concerned. Remember, Chris Capuano had to leave the game with a strained left calf last night. Turns out that Capuano was feeling funny things around that calf area. Being back in the game that involved Zach Greinke in San Diego. So he goes out, and the Dodgers will bring up catcher Tim Fedorovich, and for a very good reason. The pitch to Ellis, a strike. When the Dodgers leave here, they'll go to Baltimore for 3, and in playing the American League, that means they can play A.J. Ellis as the DH and use one of the other 2 catchers. Ellis hits one foul down the right field line, out of play. 0-2 the count. And in mentioning the Greinke game, you may remember that Jerry Hairston was suspended for 1 game, and Jerry is taking his suspension tonight. So Mattingly will be 1 right-hand hitter short. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way. Check and a slider off the plate. And the count 1-2 to Mark Ellis. Mark hitting .286. 3 RBIs with Ethier on deck. Tyner Ross delivers, and the next one is waved at and missed, and down goes Ellis, 2 out. The only time the Dodgers ever saw Tyler Ross was when we were in San Diego, and they used him as a pinch runner. But they will see him now and maybe for quite some time. So Andre Ethier will come up with 2 out. Bases empty. Andre hitting .261. He's been 0 for 6, so he's hungry in the series. 1 home run, 3 runs batted in. Ross turns on the rubber. Big fella delivers and flips it a little low. Ball 1, 1-0. So Andre Ethier hitting third in Matt Kemp's spot, and Andre Gonzalez hitting back of him cleanup. 2 out, bottom of the first, no score. Gonzalez waiting, and Ethier looks, and it's a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. Tyson Ross made his Padre debut on the 6th of April against the Rockies at Coors Field. He lost that game. He allowed 2 earned runs over 4 innings. Ethier, a little fly ball, trouble in left field. It's going to drop. So Andre Ethier couldn't get a full swing. He was tied up on it, but he was still able to lift the ball into left field, and it falls for the hit. His hands were in on his chest, couldn't extend at all, but he still winds up with a fly ball single to left. So they say over the year the scales balance. Sometimes he'll rip the ball right at somebody. Sometimes he gets jammed and tied up, and it'll drop in for a base hit. So now Adrian Gonzalez coming up, hitting .373. He's had a quiet series, as have the Dodgers, just 1 for 7. Ross out of his stretch, set at the belt, looks at Ethier, comes to Gonzalez high and away. Ball 1, 1-0. Adrian with 2 out, trying to get something going here. Ethier a cautious lead at first, held on by Yonder Alonso. The 1-0 pitch on the way, that's a little high. So 2-0 the count to Adrian Gonzalez. It was in November of last year. The Padres sent an infielder, Andy Parian, and a left-hand pitcher, Andrew Werner, to the A's, acquiring Ross. 2 balls and no strikes. Ross set, 6-6 right-handed delivers, and he's low and inside. 3-0 the count. The way the Dodgers have been going, and you certainly know how they have been going, on a 3-0 count, you certainly don't expect Mattingly to stop Gonzalez. Not when the rest of the Dodgers have not been hitting. So if he likes the location, pretty sure he'll be swinging 3-0. Adrian looks and it's way outside, ball 4. So he never had the opportunity. So with 2 out, a fly ball single and a walk. And the batter will be A.J. Ellis. As we said, with the Dodgers going to Baltimore, they now can use either Ramon Hernandez or Tim Fedorovich and use A.J. Ellis as the designated hitter. Batting .286, he has 1 home run. A.J. at the plate, hitting back of him, Skip Schumacher. 2 on, 2 out, first inning, no score. Ross ready and delivers, and he's low and away. Ball 1, 1-0. Dodgers trying to snap a Padre 2-game winning streak by snapping their own 3-game losing streak and using the services of Clayton Kershaw to do both. The 1-0 pitch on the way out in front of it is A.J. He was looking for something else. Meanwhile, Tyler Ross has made 20 pitches here in the first inning. 10 balls, 10 strikes. He's got Ethier at second, Gonzalez at first, 2 away. The outfield just about straight away, but there's a bit of a split, and they also kind of come to the center. The 1-1 pitch taken for a strike. So pretty much they play Ellis and give him straightaway left and a lot of right. Any gap at all would be slight and in left center. 1-2 to A.J. Schumacher waiting on deck. 2 on, 2 out, no score. Tyler Ross at 6'6", bends at the waist and knees to Reed Hundley. Now he straightens up, looks at the runners, and the 1-2 pitch, breaking ball, lifted to right field. Coming in for it is Kyle Blanks, and the big guy picks it off, and that's that. So for the Dodgers, no runs, 1 hit, and 2 left. And at the end of an inning, no score. Shaw ready to pitch to Jesus Guzman, Yonder Alonso, and Jed Jerko. Little side note on Clayton Kershaw. In his young career, he has struck out 999. So the first guy to go down swinging or taking will be strikeout number 1,000 in his career. He would be the second youngest behind Fernando. So Clayton looks down. Guzman waits at the plate, and the right-hand batter looks, and it's a strike. 0-1. Jesus Guzman is from Sucre. I assume that's sugar in Venezuela. Hitting .227. He has some power. Had 9 for the Padres last year. Takes a pitch that misses. 1-1. Looking at Clayton Kershaw against the National League West. In his career, he is 7-6 against Arizona. The 1-1 fastball, and that's low, ball 2. He is 7-4 against Colorado. He is 9-4 against San Francisco, and he is 8-3 against San Diego, and he's beaten them 4 straight. The 2-1 pitch, and Guzman hits a high fly ball, very playable. Crawford is there waiting and puts it away. So 1 down, and the batter will be Yonder Alonso, who has an 8-game hitting streak. Outside of the National League West, you might be interested to know that Kershaw against the Philadelphia Phillies is 0-4, and against the New York Mets 5-0, and of course he'll pitch against the Mets on this road trip. So here is Alonso hitting .327. Left-hand hitting first baseman, and a very good one. Yonder takes high, ball 1. 1-0 the count. Alonso very impressive. After you've watched him a few games, you realize that he can play. The breaking ball fouled at the plate, and the count 1-1. Yonder, born in Havana. The story's getting old now, but still worth mentioning because everybody wonders the first time about the name. His mom and dad made up the name. His father was quite a baseball player in Cuba. The 1-1 pitch taken inside, ball 2. His father was a catcher, first baseman, and then a coach for the Industriales. They were considered the New York Yankees of Cuba. Here's the 2-1 pitch, and Kershaw deals line foul down the right field line. 2-2 the count to Yonder Alonso. Alonso well put together. He's about 6'2", checks in around 240, and went to the University of Miami. He was a first-round pick of the Cincinnati Reds. Kershaw's 2-2 pitch on the way, and very high. He overthrew. That brought Ellis way out of his crouch. So 3-2 the count to Alonso, who's just starting out. He's 26 years old. Kershaw comes back 3-2, and that's a fastball fouled away. Kershaw throwing 92 at the time. So Alonso with a quick bat up there hacking away. 3-2. The Padres sent Matt Latos to the Reds to get Alonso. The 3-2 pitch swung on and missed, and there it is. The ball is rolled over to the Dodger dugout. 1,000 strikeouts for Clayton Kershaw, the 13th Dodger and second youngest to Fernando. And it's a good one, who became 1,000, Yonder Alonso. It looked like a letter-high fastball, and down he goes. So now the batter is Jed Jerko with 1 out, now 2 outs. And Kershaw delivers. First ball lifted to straightaway center. Schumacher is there, and that'll be that. So Kershaw made only 8 pitches in the first inning, and he only made 12 in the second. And at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Schumacher will start it off for the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw's made 20 pitches. By reaching 1,000 strikeouts, we see Fernando the youngest, followed by Clayton and then Don Drysdale. And between Kershaw and Drysdale, a matter of days. So bottom of the second inning, no score. Schumacher, switch hitter, or left-hand hitter with Punto, the switch hitter, on deck. Skip hit 143, playing center field for Matt Kemp. Tyler Ross looks down to get a sign. Big right-handed delivers, snaps a fastball away. That's at 89. So for Matt Kemp, unaccustomed as he is to sitting or standing and watching, that's his role tonight, at least at the outset. We'll see if he gets into this game at all. The 2-0 pitch on the way, and Schumacher takes a strike, and the count 2-1. Dodgers leave after the game. That makes it a tough beginning, but the players voted on it, so they're going to leave after the game and go to Baltimore. 2-1 pitch is hit down the left field line, foul and out of play. 2-2. What it means, let's just guess. The game ends at 10 o'clock. The Dodgers will take off sometime between 12 and 12:30. Well, that's 3:30 Baltimore time. And if it's a 5-hour ride to Baltimore, they'll get in at 8:30 in the morning, right in the middle of the traffic. Oh, well. One thing for the players, they can't groan about it. They voted for it. 2-2 pitch is fouled away. The Schumacher, Punto, and Sellers. No score, bottom of the second. Dodgers have lost 3 in a row, 4 of the last 5. Meanwhile, the Padres, who came in here with a 5-game losing streak, they've won 2 straight and 6 of the last 7 at Dodger Stadium. Schumacher takes just off the plate. Fastball had missed, and that fastball hurried up there at 95. So Tyler Ross, the kid from Oakland, the big kid at 6'6", and the 3-2 pitch, that's lined to left field. Playing up, however, is Guzman, and that goes right into his glove. So location is everything, and Schumacher hits it on the button, but right at the left fielder. And the batter now will be the switch hitter, Nick Punto. Punto, hitting left-handed, brings up a huge average, 545. Of course, it's not that Nick has had a lot of at-bats, but he has certainly made the most of what he has had. And Punto takes a look at a strike, 0-1. Nick is hitting 500 right-handed and 571 left. That really adds up to 6 hits in 11 at-bats. Ross turns, comes right back over the top, misses down and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ross ready again, and his 1-1 pitch. That one is just off the plate. So 2-1 the count. He's now made 32 pitches, 22 in the first inning, and so far 10 in the second. Headley playing about even with the bag at third, and the 2-1 pitch, Punto takes a strike, and the count 2-2. Nick, of course, will bunt, usually dragging left-handed and then going into the bag head first. But he has 2 strikes on him now, 2-2 to count. No score, bottom of the second, 1 away. Here comes Ross over the top fastball, and that sliced foul off to the left and out of play. That fastball was 94. Nick Punto is 5'9" and a very well-built 190. Had 15 home runs in his career, and his career is about 3,200 to 3,300 plate appearances. Of course, the Dodgers had Juan Pierre, Ryan Theriot, Jamie Carroll. They had about 20, and a good late breaking ball, and down he goes. Boy, that was a big pitch made by Ross. Very, very impressive. Looked like it was up, and then at the last minute it dropped in, and he was done. The second strikeout for Ross, and here's Justin Sellers, the shortstop, who has done remarkably well at the position. Struggling with the bat at 167, but as Don Mattingly says, he is doing exactly what we want. The first pitch of the right-hand hitter, inside, 1 ball and no strikes. Hanley Ramirez, of course, yesterday being quoted that he's going to come back sooner than most people expect, though we'll see. The 1-0 pitch on the way is high and inside, ball 2. Clayton Kershaw is on deck. Of course, coming back sooner than expected for Hanley Ramirez would be a gift for the Dodgers, just as the arrival of Chase Headley at third base is a big gift for the Padres. Headley has been out. He had the fractured tip of his left thumb. The 2-0 pitch in for a strike, and they count 2-1. But Headley is back, and of course after that big year he had last year, All-Star, Gold Glove, 115 RBI. Sellers, meanwhile, bangs it into center for a base hit. So a 2-out single by Justin, and the batter will be Clayton Kershaw. And of course, every time Kershaw comes up to hit, certainly this year, people will immediately begin to remember that home run over the center field fence. That was somewhat of a surprise, to say the least. So Kershaw coming up, 2 down, second inning, no score. Sellers short lead held on by Alonso. The first pitch to Kershaw, and that drops in nicely for a strike, 0-1. Remember, Clayton homered over the center field wall. Rare to do that. You have to go back to the year 2000. Darren Dreifert, who was a very good hitter, he hit one over the center field wall. The strike 1 pitch on the way, Clayton takes high. But it's a rare accomplishment here at Dodger Stadium for anybody to hit it over the center field fence. Over the last 2 years, 162 games, opponents have hit 31 home runs to dead center. Only 10 2 years ago. Big hack and a miss, and they count 1-2. So it was not only a shock that Clayton hit a home run. It was a real shock that he hit it to center field. Clayton Kershaw is 6'3", about 220 to 225, so he's a big man. The 1-2 pitch, Clayton fouls it away off to the left in the lower deck. Sellout crowd tonight. It's a Hello Kitty night, and they are here. So we would guess that it starts at 52,000 if it's a sellout. 1-2 to Clayton Kershaw. The 1-2 pitch on the way. Kershaw hits a little roller wide of third. Headley is on the ball, throws to first, and that's the inning. So for the Dodgers, no runs, 1 hit, a man left. At the end of 2, no score. Kershaw, Tyson Ross. It'll be Kyle Blanks, Nick Hundley the catcher, and then Ross the pitcher, as Kershaw has faced only 6 batters in 2 innings. You know, Saturday, April 27th at 6:10, Dodgers and Brewers, and the first 40,000 fans in attendance take home their very own Dodger sports bag, compliments of United Airlines. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Well, the Padres have a big man on the mound at 6'6". They have an even bigger man in right field coming up to the plate. That would be Kyle Blanks. Blanks is 6'6", but he checks in around 280 to 285. You would think football when you see him, but he said, I don't like football. I don't even watch it on TV. He's from Pennsylvania. Right-hand batter lashes one, but it's going foul down the left field line, cracking his bat in the process. So he'll have to get another, and they'll bring a stick to him. No balls in 1 strike to Kyle Blanks. Kyle Blanks, when he first came up to the Padres back in 2009, hit 12 home runs. He had 11 down in the minors in Tucson. He hit 7 2 years ago for the Padres. So Blanks waiting. And the strike 1 pitch swung on, ground ball to third. Punto waits for the hop, guns it to Gonzalez, 1 away. So 1 down in the third, and the batter is Nick Hundley.
Catcher, number 4.
Nick Hundley has been very impressive this year, especially against the Dodgers. Hundley hitting well over 300. 325 to be exact. In last night's game, he had a walk, a double, a single, and a scoring fly ball. John Baker caught the first game. So here's Hundley, right-hand batter, and Kershaw's fastball is high, ball 1. Tyler Ross has made 44 pitches in the first 2 innings. Hundley hitting over 600 in the 4 games he's played against the Dodgers. Takes 1 in the dirt, and the count 2 balls and no strikes. So Hundley acting like anything but an 8th place hitter in the lineup, facing Clayton Kershaw. 2 balls and no strikes. Clayton's 2-0 pitch on the way. Hundley takes, and it's inside, ball 3. What about the pass? Well, Hundley 7 for 21. That would be a .333 batting average against Kershaw. The 3-0 pitch on the way. Nick looks, and it's a strike. Hundley's from Corvallis, Oregon, lives in San Diego, but he went to the University of Arizona. His father, at one time, was with Rick Neuheisel at UCLA. The 3-1 pitch, check swing for a strike. Hundley started to go to first and comes back. Nick 6'1", 210. Been in the Padres system since he was drafted in the 2nd round in 2005 and first came up in 2008. Here's the 3-2 pitch on the way, and it's a breaking ball, strike 3 called. Hundley knew it and walked away. One of those slow curves. It looked like it was going to be above the strike zone, and it just drops in. So Kershaw really spins a dandy, and down goes Hundley. 2 strikeouts for Clayton, 1,001 in his career. Here is Tyson Ross, 0 for 4 with that big strike zone, and he takes a little low, ball 1. Want to know to Ross. In his previous games, he is 0 for 4, but he has not struck out. Fastball, that's in there. 93-mile-an-hour fastball. We've seen Ross hit 95. 2 out, bases empty in the 3rd. Kershaw has retired 8 in a row. And his 1-1 pitch, fastball snapped in at the knees, 1-2. Ross back in. Clayton checking with A.J. Ellis. Now the left-hander ready. Here he comes. Breaking ball, fouled at the plate. So Ross got a little bit of the curve. That came up there at 74. Clayton trying to get his record to 3-1. Trying to get his record to 9-3 lifetime against San Diego. And trying to beat the Padres 5 straight. Here he comes. Fastball low and inside. And he hit 94. So each pitcher throwing in the mid-90s, and we're scoreless in the third. Kershaw bare arm, turns, ready, 2-2, golfed at and fouled away. Ellis got a little bit of that. So for Ross, not bad. He's fouling off 94-mile-an-hour fastballs. 2-2 the count. His younger brother was a first-round pick by the Padres, so they might be pitching together. Not too long. 2-2 pitch, swung on, hit in the air to center. Schumacher has to go back to the track. It's going to go off the wall, and Ross will hold with a long single. His first major league hit. Looked like he might have hurt his left shoulder a little bit in the swing. You'd never know it, but they're going to check him. Whatever happened on the swing, he felt it. And at the same time, he hit the center field wall 390 feet away. So the Padres, along with Dave Roberts and an interested spectator, Adrian Gonzalez, want to make sure that Ross is okay. I mean, just think of the risk every time you make a pitch to the shoulder. But he hurt his left shoulder, taking a big swing at that pitch. We'll take a look at it for those watching on television. Big full extension, and he takes off. He might have hit the shoulder with the bat, and he kind of cradles the left arm as he runs down the line. We were too busy watching the ball go over Schumacher's head. So a 2-out single by Ross. The batter will be Chris DeNorfia. They want to make sure that Ross is okay. He's apparently a pretty good base runner, because the only other time we saw him, Bud Black used him as a pinch runner. All right, they have been assured that he's all right. Adrian Gonzalez saying that'll teach you to hit the ball so hard. So Kershaw gives up a base hit to the opposite number. No surprise after you saw Ross fouling off 94-mile-an-hour fastballs. So here is Chris DeNorfia. The Dodgers used to always get him out. Now they can't get him out, even though he grounded out in the first inning. He's off to the best start of his career, hitting .385. DeNorfia hitting in the 260s against Kershaw, and looks at a strike, 0-1. He has 5 hits, including a home run against Clayton. Tyler Ross, short lead at first, but at 6'6", he can pick up a yardage as soon as he's underway. Strike one pitch is swung on, fouled at the plate, and the count 0-2 to Chris DeNorfia. Padres have found a home here. They don't have won 2 straight. They've won 6 of the last 7 at Dodger Stadium, and they're trying to sweep the Dodgers for the first time at Dodger Stadium since 2006. Strike 2 pitch to DeNorfia. That's line foul off the protective railing of the Padre dugout, and in the air it's caught by Adrian Gonzalez. So that thing was hit hard. Chris out of Connecticut, the Nutmeg State. DeNorfia waiting. Sandy, big stretch, pulls it down. And the 0-2 pitch on the way, down and away. Actually, he hit his target. A.J. Ellis was hanging off the edge. That's exactly where the pitch went. 1-2 to DeNorfia. No score, top of the third. Ross, the pitcher for the Padres, at first base. A throw over there, and Ross back to the bag. No runs, 1 hit for the Padres. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. Dodgers have left 3. Padres, nobody until now. And the 1-2 pitch, DeNorfia looks, and it's low. 2-2 the count to Chris. Everett Cabrera waiting on deck. Kershaw very deliberate, hiding the ball back of his left hip. Now out of his stretch. And the 2-2 pitch coming up to DeNorfia. Swung on and fouled at the plate, and he's still there. DeNorfia, normally a corner fielder, but when they sat Cameron Maben down last night, he played center field, and despite the harrowing winds out there, he did a pretty good job. DeNorfia has struck out 6 times this year, and the 2-2 pitch is strike 3 called. For Kershaw, the 3rd strikeout of the night. No runs, a hit, a man left. At the end of 2.5, no score. Jaguar. See the new model year lineup at JaguarUSA.com. By the Jim Beam Bourbon Burger with bacon, onion straws, and pepper jack cheese, all slathered in Jim Beam bourbon sauce, only at Carl's Jr. And by your Southern California Chevy dealers. We move along to the bottom of the 3rd. No score. It'll be the top of the order for the Dodgers. Meanwhile, Tyler Ross a little slow in going out to the mound. However, he's there and apparently okay after hurting his left shoulder, taking a rather prodigious prod at the baseball and hitting it off the center field wall for a long single. But he's right-handed, so it shouldn't bother him too much, and we'll see what he does now against Carl Crawford. And Ross's first pitch punched by the diving Headley, who deflects it behind Cabrera, and it's a base hit to left field. You know, some ball players are always thinking, if we show that again, when Headley dives, watch the shortstop, Everett Cabrera. He will let you think that he's going to make a play. It's off the glove. Cabrera can't get it, but he's not finished. And the camera, of course, followed the ball. So let's see it this way. There's Cabrera, can't make the play, but now look at him. He is making believe he's got the ball and he's going to make a throw. So it's interesting to see the big leaguers. They never stop. They never quit. And Crawford has himself a base hit. The batter now is Mark Ellis. Carl Crawford going after the first or second pitch, as he does. He's hitting .588 going after that first or second pitch. So Crawford doing very well. Meanwhile, Tyson Ross ready to pitch. And Nick Hundley is looking over at Bud Black to see if they're going to pitch out. Crawford has stolen 2, but he's also been caught twice. Ross out of his set. Crawford's not going, and the pitch to Ellis is low. 1 ball and no strikes. Mark struck out in the first inning. Ross has 2 strikeouts. Kershaw has 3. We're in the bottom of the 3rd, final game of the series and this very brief homestand. The 1-0 pitch on the way, that's a strike. A reminder, the Dodgers will be gone Baltimore for the weekend, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in New York. But then they'll be home. They'll play Milwaukee and Colorado, go up to San Francisco for 3, and come right back to play Arizona, Miami, and Washington. 1 ball and 1 strike to Mark Ellis. Crawford goes. The pitch is outside. The throw is wrong side. It was on the shortstop side of the bag, and Crawford steals his 3rd. So Kyle Crawford just learning the pitchers in the National League, but the throw was away, and he was able to get in there easily enough. Crawford, of course, has stolen as many as 60 bases. He did that for the Rays. He had 59. So he is a very knowledgeable base stealer, and he's been a wonderful leadoff man. So Ellis now trying to at least advance him, if not pick him up. And on deck, you have Andre Ethier. The outfield is shaded to right on Ellis. Ross set at the belt, looks at Crawford to the plate, and the pitch in there for a strike. 2-2. Mark batting .280. Tyler Ross at 6'6", bends at the knees and waist to read Nick Hundley. Now he straightens up, and his 2-2 pitch coming up. Right-hander over the top. Fastball bang to center. Crawford followed the ball, and the ball is bobbled in center, but then he rounds and goes back to the bag. So when that ball was in the air, Crawford looked at the flight of the ball towards center. That felt he's just going to go to 3rd. DeNorfia, hoping to make a play, overran the ball briefly, but then recovered, and Crawford held. So the Dodgers have runners at 1st and 3rd. Nobody out, and Andre Ethier coming up. So Crawford looked at the ball. He's on his way. Then they say no. Then there's the mess in center for the moment, and he goes back to the bag. So 1st and 3rd, nobody out, and Andre Ethier, who singled to left field. He never did extend his arms, but he nevertheless was able to push a little fly ball that dropped in for the base hit. Ross deals, and the first pitch is low. Ball 1, 1-0. Anytime we have a runner at 3rd, we always look to see about the pitcher and whether he's committed a wild pitch. And the answer for Tyler Ross, he has 2 wild pitches this year. Ethier on a 1-0 count. Andre hitting .277. Ross comes back, and it is swung on and missed. Good pitch. He took a lot off that. Got up there at 84, and he's pitched as high as 95. Tyler Ross, big fella, 6'6", 230, but only 26 years old. The 1-1 pitch, high and away, ball 2. In fact, he won't be 26 until the 22nd of the month. First and 3rd for the Dodgers. Bottom of the 3rd, no score. Ross from the first base side of the rubber leans in to get a sign. 2-1 pitch. Ethier fouls it back to the screen, and the count 2-2. Andre muttering to himself. I think that was a pitch he felt he should have hit, and just fouled it back. Like the fisherman who has the big fish get away when he thought he had it on the hook. I think that's how Andre feels right now. 2-2. Crawford down the line from third. Ellis at first. Nobody out. 2-2 pitch. Swung on and popped up. I mean up. Cabrera, the shortstop, goes out. Coming in to make the play is left fielder Guzman. There's no wind, and yet that ball acted a little in the peculiar side. Cabrera looked like he had it all the way, and then all of a sudden it had a little more carry to it, and we have no breeze to even mention. Cabrera had it all the way, and then all of a sudden the big left fielder Guzman ran him off the ball. So Ethier can't do anything. 1 out, and again, of course, the statisticians chalk it up. Dodgers 0 for 1 with a runner in scoring position. They're 0 for 2 to be exact so far. So here's Adrian Gonzalez, who walked in the first inning. Adrian hitting .373, and certainly they look to him as the RBI man, with Crawford at third and Ellis at first. 11 RBIs for Adrian. On deck, A.J. Ellis. Ross out of a stretch. Tyler ready, and the pitch is grounded foul over the first. No balls and 1 strike. In the inning, Crawford singled off Headley's glove, stole second, took third on Mark Ellis' single to center, only to have Ethier pop up. Gonzalez, with runners in scoring position, is hitting .500. And the pitch to Adrian way inside. Nice save by Hundley. That could have been a wild pitch. 1-1 the count. So the Dodgers struggling to get runners home, and they have their number 1 man up there now with runners at first and third. For Mattingly, another anxious moment. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out. Third inning, no score. Tyler Ross set and delivers, and it is low. 2-1. Adrian walked in the first inning. A.J. Ellis on deck. Dodgers right now have had 4 hits and a walk and nothing on the board. Here's the 2-1 pitch coming up. Ross deals, and is a high fly ball slicing down the left field line, going to the wall and making a great catch is Jesus Guzman. The Dodgers get a run. What a play by Guzman. Crawford alertly tagged. Boy, for a visiting player, especially one who certainly doesn't know the territory, that's a remarkable play. He crossed the foul line, reached up, hit the wall with his left side, left arm extended over the wall, and he held on to the ball. Because he makes the good catch, he also gets an out, and the Dodgers also get a run. So Gonzalez picks up his 12th with a long foul ball down the left field line that's caught. So the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead. Crawford brings it in. Mark Ellis held at first. And with 2 out, A.J. Ellis at the plate. Dodgers lead 1-0 in the third. Ross looks in. A.J. holding the bat, trying to time him. And a throw to first. Mark Ellis diving back. Mark Ellis does have a stolen base. He's 1 for 1. Ellis hitting high up in the lineup. A.J. batting 5th tonight as Mark takes the lead. Ross at the belt. Here he comes. Fastball a little high. Ball 1. Jeff Kellogg is the plate umpire for tonight. Jeff's been a big league umpire for over 20 years, almost 21. He's from Michigan. Has a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice from Ferris State University. Jeff Kellogg. The 1-0 pitch to A.J. Ellis. Ross delivers, and a ground ball up the middle. Base hit. Mark Ellis to second. He will hold. and Denorfia gets it back in. So the Ellis boys are out there. Mark at second and A.J. at first. And the batter, Skip Schumacher. Dodgers now 1 run, 5 hits, and they have 2 men on with 2 out. Padres have 1 hit, and it was the single by their pitcher, Tyler Ross. So Schumacher in and out of the lineup. Tough game to play, and when you don't play or play infrequently, it's so much tougher. Schumacher, left-hand batter, and he has the switch hitter Punto hitting back of him. Ross, meanwhile, has made 61 pitches, and he's only in the 3rd inning. Right-hander ready, looks at his runners, and the pitch, Schumacher takes low, ball 1. 1-0 the count. In the inning, Crawford singled off Headley's glove, stole second. Ellis, marked that is, singled into third. Ethier popped the ball up for an out. Gonzalez, a foul ball to left, a great catch by Guzman, and tagging up the score was Crawford. The 1-0 pitch, that does not find the mark. So Ross is behind now, 2 balls and no strikes. He made 22 pitches in the 1st inning, 22 pitches in the 2nd inning, and he's ready to make his 22nd pitch of this 3rd inning. So he's working hard. The 2-0 pitch coming up. Ross deals a hot ground ball backhanded by Alonso. Yonder takes it to the bag. So Schumacher hits it hard, grounds out. So the Dodgers score 1, lead 2. And at the end of 3, 1-0 Dodgers. Is brought to you by Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Good times. By Chevrolet. By New Road. And by Sports Authority, the official sporting goods retailer of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers take a 1-0 lead as we move to the 4th inning. Everett Cabrera, then Chase Headley, and Jesus Guzman. Clayton Kershaw, when he struck out Alonso, that gave him 1,000 strikeouts. What's interesting, Clayton got 1,000 in 970 innings. Sandy Koufax got 1,990 innings. Cabrera, first ball swinging, fouls it behind the plate. A.J. to the screen, but it's on the other side. 0-1 the count. Cabrera popped up to shortstop in the 1st inning. Clayton made only 8 pitches in the 1st inning, 12 in the 2nd, and then he labored a little bit and made 20 pitches in the 3rd. The corners are up. Cabrera's a good bunter. Gonzalez at the bag, Punto at the bag. 1 ball and 1 strike to Everett. Interesting, as we pointed out, that Everett Cabrera from Nicaragua, even though that ball went by Headley off the glove, deflected to left, he still put on a show. He runs to bunt, and 2 balls and 1 strike. Because once the ball left the infield, Cabrera had no idea where the ball was, but neither did the runner. So if the runner thought, oh, I might be able to go to second, Cabrera was all set. Well, they never stopped thinking out there. 2-1 to Everett. And a high fly ball to deep left field. Back goes Crawford to the track at the gate. Watches it go into the Dodger bullpen. So Everett Cabrera, who is 5'10 and 180, did not have a, well, he did. He had 2 home runs for San Diego last year. And Cabrera, who has been a thorn in the Dodgers side, hits his 2nd home run of the year, and the ball game is tied 1-1. As far as Kershaw is concerned, as far as home runs allowed, that would be his first. So Cabrera, with a big smile on his face, gets the game even. And now here's Chase Headley. Headley fractured the tip of his left thumb, and he's finally gotten back in the lineup. That's a strike. Headley, they say, more power right-handed, better average hitting left-handed. Boy, what a year last year. 115 runs batted in to lead the league. Right. 1-2. He was also a Gold Glove. He was also an All-Star. Even had consideration for most valuable player. Two and two. One run, 2 hits for San Diego. 1 run, 5 hits for the Dodgers. That's slapped foul down the line. Last year, when Chase Headley had 115 runs batted in, he knocked in at least 3 runs in a game 12 times. That was the most since Adrian Gonzalez did it 13 times for San Diego back in 2007. The only 2 players who have had more 3 RBI games than Headley, Josh Hamilton and Adrian Gonzalez. Headley and Troy Tulowitzki have faced Clayton Kershaw more times than any other hitters. Headley 7 for 39. That's about a 180 batting average. Tulowitzki 8 for 38. That's 211. Fastball, and he was looking for it and pulled it foul. Other good hitters against Kershaw: Buster Posey 167, Justin Upton, who is now in Atlanta, 103, Hunter Pence 038. 3-2 the count. And a little pop foul. Punto on the dead run, can't make it. Headley will have to get another stick. Chip the bat. So Punto running hard. Tried to catch it with the glove going down, which is a tough way to do it. Tried to backhand it, but couldn't make the play. Adrian Gonzalez at first base faced Clayton Kershaw 25 times. His average against Clayton 200. All right, 3-2 to count to Chase Headley. 1-1 tie. Punto will get an error. And ball 4. So Cabrera hits a home run, and Kershaw pitches around and finally walks Chase Headley.
Left fielder, number 15, Jesus Guzman.
So we'll see the walk following the error, whether it's important or not. Jesus Guzman made a terrific play on that foul ball hit by Adrian Gonzalez. I mean, it's a wonderful play for a guy who plays here 81 games. For a visiting player, it's truly remarkable, and he hits one just foul outside of third and down the line. So Headley back to first. That thing was ripped, and it went by the bag less than a foot from being a fair ball. Right on the line, Chad Fairchild will call it. Close play at first, and Headley just did get back. Kershaw, among other things, has something like 70 pickoffs in his entire career. And he's got a very good move to first. Bring it up to date. He has 37 pickoffs, and there's a pop fly for a base hit, and Headley did not fall for the decoy by Mark Ellis. And the Padres have runners at first and third. Ellis went out as if he had a play to make, but Headley ran right on through the decoy and kept on going. Little pop fly, and now watch Ellis. He'll go out, making believe he's got it just to try to confuse Headley, but there was no chance. So Kershaw is in trouble now. Gave up the home run to Cabrera, walked Headley, and a single to Guzman. Runners at first and third, nobody out. And Alonso, Jerko, and Blanks coming up. One fourth inning, and ball one. What we do with Kershaw, what we did with Ross, with a runner at third. And the answer is Clayton has one wild pitch. So Headley coming down the line from third. Guzman away from first. Ball two. To repeat the pickoffs for Kershaw in his career, 37. Two and 0. So Clayton, after losing Headley when Punto was unable to handle the foul ball, now finds himself in some trouble. AJ coming back to settle behind the plate. When the Dodgers go to Baltimore, Ryu pitches game one, Beckett the second game, and Billingsley the third. Then the Dodgers go to New York to play three with the Mets before coming home. Here's the 2-0 pitch to Yonder Alonso. Foul back out of play. Alonso struck out, and he will be the answer to the trivia quiz. Who struck out and made the 1,000th strikeout in Clayton Kershaw's career? And the answer is Yonder Alonso, who, by the way, has an 8-game hitting streak and hitting .321. Wouldn't bite, low fastball. Kershaw now has made 62 pitches, which means he's made 20 here in the fourth inning, and there's no one out. First and third, Headley and Guzman. 3-1 and ball four. So Alonso draws the walk. Guzman goes to second. Holding at third is Headley, and the bases are loaded. And Rick Honeycutt trying to go out with a word of advice. Kershaw, 2 walks, a single, and a home run here in the inning. And of course, you get a run or two against the Dodgers, and the way the club has been struggling this early in the year, it suddenly becomes a formidable opposition. So the Padres trying to put a couple on the board early. Remember last night they had 4 in the first inning. Then again, folks get all worked up, win or lose. This is the 15th game. So when this game is over, remember, there's 147 games left. It's not too wise to make a decision of any kind this early. Meanwhile, you can see Zach Greinke at left arm in a sling. He fractured the left collarbone or clavicle. lending moral support. And here's Jerko, and he takes a strike. Jed flied to center in the second inning. They are so high on him, it has come to pass, and we knew it would. Headley came back to play third. Jerko immediately moved over to second. So the bases loaded, nobody out. Strike one pitch, big overhand breaking ball low, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Alexi Amarista, who played second base, did his job, knocked in 6 runs while he was playing. So Headley at third, Guzman at second, Alonso at first, and nobody out. 1-1. Fastball hit to third. Punto to second for 1. Back to first. Double play. Headley scores. Taking third is Alonso. And the Padres take a 2-1 lead. Nice play by Nick. That ball was hit very, very hard.
Right fielder number 88, Kyle Blank.
So Kyle Blanks will be coming up. Headley scores, Guzman to third, and with 2 out, here's Kyle Blanks, who grounded to third in the third inning. Batting .333. 2 out, 2 in. Padres lead 2-1. Ball 1. To look ahead when the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 4th, they have Punto, Sellers, and Kershaw. One ball and no strikes. And low again. On deck, Nick Hundley. Two 2-0, 2 out. Guzman at third. And a line drive base hit. Kershaw jumps in the air in frustration. He knew he made a bad pitch. And it is 3-1 San Diego as Blanks drills it to left. And Kershaw, obviously annoyed with himself, jumped high in the air on that base hit. He was angry. Oh, no. But yes, 3-1 Padres. Three runs in the inning, and now Huntley with Blanks at first, 2 out, and the Padres with that comfortable 3-1 lead. 0-1 the count to Nick. Padres last night scored 4 in the first inning, and in game 1 they scored 3 in the second inning. Dodgers meanwhile kind of whittle away, a run here, a run there. And that won't get it. 0-1. Hundley struck out in the third inning. In the dirt, that gets away from A.J. Ellis. So he thoroughly frustrated and annoyed Kershaw. And I'm pretty sure they'll call that a wild pitch. And that will send Blanks to second base. 3 runs, 4 hits for San Diego. Remember, the Padres trying to win tonight, sweep the series here at Dodger Stadium for the first time since 2006. Now they're going to walk Hundley intentionally, try and get out of it against Tyler Ross. And remember, he hit the center field wall with that single and hurt his shoulder. So Tyson will be coming up in a moment. For Kershaw, he's allowed 3 runs, 4 hits. He has walked 3, all in this inning.
Batting next, pitcher number 38, Tyson Ross.
So Tyson Ross, single to center in the third. Big fella coming up with 2 on. That was his first major league hit. For Kyler stepping in. Kershaw now will be making his 33rd pitch of the inning. I mean, he's laboring. That's a strike. 33 pitches, makes 75, and he's only in the 4th inning. And a bunt up along first. Kershaw underhands to Gonzalez, and the inning is over. However, 8 men come to the plate. 3 come home. A couple are left, led by Cabrera's home run. And the Padres lead 3-1. By Acura. Acura Advance. By Time Warner Cable. Enjoy all the things you love better. Call Time Warner Cable 1-855-WANT-TWC. And by 76. We're on the driver's side. Bottom of the 4th inning, and the Dodgers, who scored first, find themselves in a hole again. A tough inning for Clayton Kershaw. He struggled. He made 34 pitches and winds up giving 3 runs in the inning. Tyson Ross tried to bunt his way aboard to make the last out. So Ross will be facing Punto, Sellers, and Kershaw. Shows you how little things mean a lot. Remember the foul ball, and Punto on a dead run couldn't make the catch, charged with an error. That eventually helped to give San Diego 1 of the 3 runs. Ball 1 to Nick, who struck out in the 2nd inning. Tyson Ross, big boy out of Oakland, and not only big because he's 6'6". He's got good extension. In fact, that was one of his problems, because as a kid he played a lot of infield, and in a lot of infield you don't make that long full extension throw. So when he started to become a pitcher, he had to get rid of all those habits, and here he is. And we mentioned earlier his younger brother was drafted by the Padres. Punto with the count his way now, 3-0. And a strike. 3-1. Nick just trying to get aboard, trying to light a fire. Waiting on deck, Justin Sellers. The bunt, good one, but Tyson is on it, makes the throw in time. So Punto wants to bunt, but pays the price. 1 away. And Justin Sellers coming up.
Justin Sellers.
Sellers a line drive single to center in the 2nd inning, hitting 189. Padres lead 3-1, bottom of the 4th. And a strike. That drops in there. 0-2 the count. So Ross impressive for the first 3 in the 3rd innings. His brother Joe is a right-hand pitcher, and they must think highly of him. Joe was drafted in the 1st round of 2011. So the last we checked, Joe was 2-0 in the minors. And Ross waiting to welcome him in the big leagues. Just squirted foul. 1-2. That went right into the mask of Nick Hundley. That's quite a contraption he wears. It's all one piece, trying to provide as much protection as possible, especially the extension from under the chin. When you think of the masks way back, I mean by way back in the 50s, boy, the catchers, they didn't have any protection compared to the modern day catcher. 1-2. Foul ball. In the old days, the mask only covered from the chin, and it was free. The catcher would flip that mask easily. Now, let's say if Hundley's gone back, he's got to flip a sizable piece of equipment. But he's safer. Breaking ball popped up. Moving over and making the catch is Denorfia. And we have 2 down in the 4th inning. Well, we talked about it, his first at bat. You know, that dramatic home run that Clayton hit over the center field fence. Hit all the way. How rare indeed it was. He grounded to 3rd in the 2nd inning. 2 out, 4th inning, 3-1 San Diego. That's a strike. Dodgers have a very long night ahead of them, and it will be a lot longer if they fail to bypass the Padres tonight. Little comebacker, and when you're 6-6, you just go up and get it. So the Dodgers go meekly and quietly in the 4th, and at the end of the 4th, 3-1 San Diego. To you by your Southern California Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a luxurious Lexus today. For more information, visit Lexus.com. And by Skechers Go Run 2 footwear, designed for speed. 3-1 in favor of San Diego, and we move along to the 5th inning. Top of the order for the Padres. That means Denorfia, Cabrera, and Headley. Kind of interesting and ironic at the same time for Clayton Kershaw on the night that he records a rather historic strikeout, number 1,000. He has only gotten 4 swings and misses, and the Padres have fouled off 16 pitches, and that's a real insightful note about the game. Brian Hagan tells us about that. Oh, there's another foul ball. It's one thing to swing and miss, but to keep swinging and fouling it off, there's not quite the movement on the pitches, apparently. Denorfia grounded out, struck out, 0 for 2. Bounced that curveball. 1-1. Cabrera on deck, hit a home run, and then Headley. Good low breaking ball, 1-2. The pitch count, he's up to 79. This will be his 80th pitch with nobody out in the 5th inning. No swing. Eric Cooper indicating from the first base foul line. 2-2 to Chris Denorfia. Went to prep school, same school as John F. Kennedy from Connecticut. And a fly ball to left field. It's playable. Crawford gone back and watching it carry into the seats. Though up here it looked like a fly ball the way Crawford went back. Instead, Denorfia muscles one, and for Clayton Kershaw, they are not only making contact, they're now leading 4-1. So 2 home runs in the game for the Padres. Pitch was up, looked like a high fly ball. I was looking at Crawford, and when he first turned, I thought he had it all the way. Then a complete turn, and he watched it go in the seats. Ball 1. When a ball is hit in the air to the outfield, I never look at the ball. It's the outfielder to tell me. So for Denorfia, a shrug of the shoulders, a home run, and a 4-1 San Diego lead. Bud Black, the skipper in his 7th year, got a 2-year extension. We were very happy for Bud. A class act, left-hand pitcher in the big leagues in his day. And that hit something. And apparently the bat looks 3-0, but it might have hit something. Take another look. I guess not. And there's ball 4. So Cabrera draws the walk, and Kershaw now has walked 4 in 4 innings plus. For Don Mattingly, another frustrating ball game up to now. Another game of catch-up and trying to catch up with his ace on the mound. Chase Headley grounded to third, walked 0 for 1. That's fouled away, 0-1. Headley's first game, he's been out with the fractured tip of his left thumb. Cabrera, a threat to run, and of course Kershaw with a good move to first, so you have a little battle within the war here. Fisted foul, that'll carry back into the stands. 0-2 the count. 4 runs, 5 hits, no errors for the Padres. 1 run, 5 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. The Dodgers leave for Baltimore after the game, and the Padres go up to San Francisco. 0-2. Just to let know Cabrera he's watching him. He had 44 stolen bases last year. He has stolen 3 so far this year. 0-2 to Headley. got him. Fastball up around the letters, 92 miles an hour, and that's the first out of the inning. Say, be sure to bring the kids to Dodger Stadium Sunday, April 28th. Dodgers and Brewers at 1:10. First 15,000 ticketed kids 14 and under receive a batting helmet. Compliments of Sports Authority. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. There's Guzman, flied to left, single to right, and made a great defensive catch on a ball hitting foul ground by Adrian Gonzalez. 1 ball and no strikes to Jesus, hitting .250. One and 0. Guzman originally signed with the Giants, 6-year free agent. Joined the Padres 2 years later. Ball 1. Guzman came up to the Giants in 09, played in 12 games, hit .250. Second year with the Padres. Last year he came of age. The year before hit .312. 2-0. And a little breaking ball drops in nicely for a strike. 2-1. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 5th, they have Crawford, Ellis, and Ethier. Two and 1 the count. Cabrera reading that easily enough. For Kershaw, he's only in the 5th inning. He's now made 91 pitches. Cabrera has a short lead. Kershaw watching him, however. 2-1 pitch. Not much on that. Ball 3. So Kershaw struggling a bit. And of course for the Dodgers, the last thing he wanted to do was get back into that weary bullpen. 3-1. Fastball. Well, he's still throwing reasonably hard at 92. 3-2 with 1 out. Looking at Guzman's numbers, he has struck out 5 times in about 25 plate appearances. So that means they might run Cabrera. We'll see. 3-2. Hitting behind Guzman is Yonder Alonso. Cabrera goes, and it's popped in the air foul. Adrian coming over to the railing of the dugout, only to watch it go back in. So when you look at the numbers, 3-2, it figured that they would run Cabrera, and they did. The old story, if it was good enough the first time, come back with it again. Well, we'll see. Dave Roberts talking to Cabrera. Cabrera trying to catch his breath. 3-2 the count to Jesus Guzman. You got to believe Cabrera is going to go. There he goes. And it's hit in the air to left field. This time Crawford comes in, puts it away, and Cabrera gets back to first base. So 2 out, 1 run in. Padres lead 4-1. And the batter, the left-hand hitting Yonder Alonso, who has struck out and walked. Alonso coming into the game 1 for 5 in the past against Kershaw. Though 1 for 6 with an 8-game hitting streak. Now with 2 out, will they run Cabrera? Kershaw decides you better keep an eye on him. So he was going twice 3-2 with Guzman. Now with 2 out, we'll see. Or with Alonso up there, they might want to keep Gonzalez on the bag. Ellis on the rim at second base. 0-1. Breaking ball down. And that pitch count keeps mounting up. 96 pitches, and he's only in the 5th inning. Kershaw's other games that he has pitched, he did not go over 97. So he now has made 97 pitches. He made 97 against Pittsburgh, 94 against Arizona, and 94 against the Giants. So he's working extra hard, and he's only in the 5th inning. 1 ball, 1 strike. Hit off the end of the bat and foul and out of play. 1-2 to Alonso, with Jed Jerko hitting back at him. Padres have won 3 of 5 from the Dodgers. Dodgers have lost 3 straight, 4 of the last 5. Padres have won 6 of the last 7 going back to last year here at Dodger Stadium. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Curveball got him looking. That was the last pitch he expected. A slow curveball at 75. But Denorfia homered, and it is 4-1 in favor of San Diego. To the game numbers. For instance, for Clayton Kershaw, he has had 7 3-ball counts. He has had an 0-2 count on a hitter only twice. We mentioned about swinging and missing, 8 pitches. Foul balls, 21. So he has now made 99 pitches in 5 innings. You don't expect him to be allowed too much longer. We'll see. So Crawford, Ellis, and Ethier against Tyson Ross. Ball 1. Crawford grounded to short, singled off Headley's glove. 1 for 2. Scored the Dodger run. Pulled foul in front of Davey Lopes. 1 ball and 1 strike. Crawford hitting .396. 1 home run, 2 RBIs. Padres 4, Dodgers 1, bottom of the 5th. Ball 2, 2-1. golfs a fastball, but right to Alonso. So one away here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Time for a little trivia question. Who did the Dodgers acquire in their last trade with the Padres? Think about it. Here's Mark Ellis, struck out and single to center. Dodgers have been very, very fortunate over the years in one particular area, and we'll talk about it briefly at the end of the inning. Ellis struck out, single to center. Breaking ball misses. 1 ball, 1 strike. His name is Tyson Ross. He's from Oakland. He grew up playing sandlot ball so close to the Oakland Coliseum he could hear the announcer, the public address announcer, during the games. Dreamt and hoped and prayed that someday he'd become a member of the Oakland A's. He became a member of the Oakland A's. And before you knew it, he was traded to the San Diego Padres. 1-1. Fastball off the plate. Two balls and 2 strikes the count to Mark Ellis. 1 out, 5th inning. 4-1 Padres. Fastball lifted to right field, slicing right to big blanks. So 2 down in the 5th inning, and Andre Ethier coming up.
Right fielder Andre Ethier.
For the Dodgers, same problem that has existed since the early start of the year. They get men on base and they don't do anything with it. They left 5 men in the first 3 innings. So Crawford, who scored the only run, he had to steal a base to get in position to do it. And here's Ethier, single to left in the 1st inning, fly ball to shallow left in the 3rd. Andre hitting .271. No balls, 1 strike. High and away. Clayton Kershaw has made 99 pitches. Tyson Ross has made 83. One ball, 1 strike. Just missed. 2-1. The key to Clayton Kershaw's game tonight, all of those foul balls, 20 some odd. Two and 1. Fastball fouled off to the left and will carry out a play. Andre, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, hitting in the number 3 slot tonight. Dodgers, Don Mattingly decided to give Matt Kemp a chance to catch his breath, watch the game, calm down, forget about it for a night. 2-2 the count to Andre Ethier. Fastball off the plate. 3-2. Still throwing nice and easy. He hit 95 on the gun with that last pitch. Ross came into the game 0-1. And breaking ball, half swing checked. And it's ball 4 for Andre Ethier. So 2 out. Ethier at first, and Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Adrian walked and picked up the only run on that foul ball and that great catch by Jesus Guzman back in the 3rd inning. Four runs, 5 hits for San Diego, 1 run, 5 hits and an error for the Dodgers. Ethier at first with a short lead. And that's a shot into right field. Blanks was so deep, I thought Ethier would certainly go to 3rd, but down by 3, he's not about to take any chances. So a 2-out single by Gonzalez. first and third, and the batter will be A.J. Ellis. So for Gonzalez, he has walked, he's had a scoring fly ball, and he's had a single to right. So when the evening's over, he's 1 for 1 right now. Darren Balsley out there talking to Ross. He's made 93 pitches. If you weren't with us back in the third inning, as a right-hand batter, he swung and hit the center field wall for a single and felt something in his left shoulder. Stayed in, continued, and here he is. Backed up now by Brad Brock down in the Padre bullpen. So Tyson Ross getting close to 100, but he's leading 4-1. A.J. Ellis flied to right and single to center. Two on, two out. Fastball and low, ball one. I'm not sure if he's tiring or not after 94 pitches. His best fastball's in 95. That one was 91. So coming up, pitch number 95. And big breaking ball off the plate. 2-0 the count. Two and 0 to A.J. Ellis. Breaking ball away. 3-0 now. After 96 pitches, waiting on deck, Skip Schumacher, who lined out to left and grounded hard to Alonso. 3-0 to A.J. He has a home run, 4 RBIs. And the fastball down the pipe. 3-1. So a lot of breaking balls missed, and he had to come back 3-0. Now what's he going to do? 3-1. Fastball lifted off first and foul, heading towards the stands and out of play. So 3-2 and 2 down. The runners will be going on the pitch. It's 4-1 San Diego, and we're in the bottom of the 5th inning. Last year, A.J. hit .312 against National League Western teams. So we'll see what he does tonight. Runners ready, runners go, and the pitch is high, ball 4. So Tyson Ross has not gone the required 5, and Bud Black is heading for the umpire, which means a double switch. First of all, Will Venable is going to tell Kyle Blanks to go in the left field. Guzman will be coming out, and Venable will take over in right field. That'll do it for Ross. He just missed by an out for going 5 and getting a win, perhaps. But out he goes, and we'll be back. labored. It was 99 pitches for Ross. Kershaw, still in the game, has made 99 pitches. And Kershaw allowing 2 earned runs, Ross 1, and home runs by Denorfia and Cabrera. For the Padres, they make a double switch. They bring in big Brad Brock, and they also bring in the veteran outfielder Will Venable, who's in right field. And then Kyle Blanks, who was in right field, moves over to left field, and Jesus Guzman comes out of the game. So Venable in right, Denorfia stays in center, Blanks in left, and here's Brad Brock, who throws hard and usually pitches in a hurry. Schumacher has hit the ball hard twice, but nothing to show for it. And ball 1. He lined out to left and then ripped one, and Yonder Alonso stayed with it to get him. So the Dodgers with Ethier at third, Gonzalez at second, Ellis at first, 2 out. And that's a strike. Schumacher hitting 125. Brock is big. He's as big as Tyson Ross. He's 6'6", 210. And a strike outside corner at the knees, 1-2. Brad Brock is from Freehold, New Jersey. Went to Monmouth University. He was selected in the 42nd round of 2008. Fastball, splitter, and slider. Fastball tapped to the mound. At 6-6, he makes the play, and the Dodgers leave 3. They've now left 8. Tyson heading home to talk about it at Oakland. 4-1 Padres. They've been blessed with the weather. On this day in 2000, the Dodgers were rained out. That's only the 17th rainout since they've been out here. More than that, they had gone 856 games between rainouts. Interesting, however, they've now gone close to 1,000 games without a game being rained out. The last time, they lost an entire weekend series against the Padres, but it was a good year in 1988. And with that, let's go back to this one. Four to 1 in favor of San Diego. Kershaw working on Jerko. 1 ball, no strikes. 2-0. When Schumacher hit back to the box to leave the bases loaded in the 5th inning, it brought a note that is very painful to the Dodger hitters. 2-1. With the bases loaded this year, The Dodgers are 1 for 17. You want to talk about a frustrated ball club. 2-1. And ball 3. So for Clayton, it's been a struggle. He's now made 103 pitches, and he's losing 4-1. He's also due to bat third when the Dodgers hit in the 6th inning. High fly ball to right center. Ethier angling over, calling, and makes the play. So Jerko, a long fly ball to right center, one down, and Kyle Blanks coming up. When Tyson Ross came out, and I know that Bud Black hated to take him out because he was 1 out shy of getting credit for a possible victory. He had made 99 pitches, and he has thrown over 100 pitches only 3 times in his career. But since the Padres are going to San Francisco, can you imagine Ross, an Oakland boy, couldn't wait to get there and talk about his game against the Dodgers? He pitched well enough, 1 run, 6 hits. We mentioned at the start of the game the Padres trying to sweep the Dodgers here. Boy, that is hit a mile if it's a fair ball, and it sure is fair. It winds up bouncing around and disappearing in the Dodger bullpen. So Blanks hits it as hard as a 6'6" guy weighing 280 would expect to hit it. That is also the 3rd home run allowed by Kershaw. And again, all those swings and foul balls, that was a big tip-off. He got a fastball at the knees, and he just got all of it. It's going to hit off the top of the 2nd deck and bounce into the bullpen. Anyway, if the Padres should do it, and they're leading 5-1, it means they will have swept the Dodgers here at Dodger Stadium for the first time since 2006. Interesting, late in July is when they did it. The first baseman for San Diego was Adrian Gonzalez, and the catcher for the Padres was Mike Piazza. Paco Rodriguez is throwing in the Dodger bullpen. They don't want to lift Kershaw. He's due to bat third in the 6th inning. So they'll try to get him through the inning. But he's been hit 5 runs, 6 hits. Home runs by DeNorfia, Cabrera, and Blanks. Kershaw trying to get some outs now. He's got Nick Hundley, the pitcher spot, Brock, and then DeNorfia. Nick Hundley struck out and walked, 0 for 1. Tried to bend the curveball, but not much break to it. 1 ball and no strikes. Hundley struck out looking, walked intentionally, and promptly bangs it into center for the 7th hit. So Kershaw obviously having one of those nights. Although he started off well enough, retired the first 8 in a row, but it's been trouble ever since. Well, we have a moment. Remember the trivia question? Who did the Dodgers acquire in their last trade with the Padres? There it is. Greg Maddux, 2008. One of the great pitchers, one of the more intelligent pitchers. Well, the Dodgers going to go to the mound again. Don Mattingly's coming, so they wanted Kershaw to get the outs so they could hit for him, and he couldn't get the outs. He got 1 out, then he gives up the home run and the single, and Mattingly going out. A very disappointed Kershaw, and that flight to Baltimore seems to be more agonizing as each inning goes by. We'll be back. taking a 5-1 lead. Clayton Kershaw made 109 pitches, and starting in the fourth inning, it was one struggle after another. In the fourth inning, Cabrera led off with a home run. By the time the dust settled, they had scored 3. And then in the fifth inning, Denorfia led off with a home run. And in the sixth inning, Blanks with 1 out hits a home run. They were trying to get Kershaw through the inning, but he got only 1 out, and they had to come and get him. So Rodriguez will be the batter. Now it's even questionable as to whether they would hit for Paco, since he's due third in the sixth inning. So here's Will Venable, who just got into the game. Little cutter, but high, ball 1. Venable hitting .243, playing right field for the rest of the game. One ball and no strikes. Off the plate. 2-0. Will 0 for 3 had a big game against the Dodgers in San Diego. 2 balls and no strikes. And that's high. 3-0 the count to Venable. So Venable checking with Glenn Hoffman in the third base coaching box. 3-1 the count. Hoppy, who at one time briefly managed the Dodgers. 3-2. Now Dave Roberts going over to talk to Huntley about what he's doing with 1 out and a 3-2 count. Is he going? Venable with Chris Denorfia on deck. And soft stuff takes care of Venable as he strikes out. So Paco gets a man. 6 Padres have struck out tonight, 5 by Kershaw. Good little breaking ball. Now Denorfia grounded out, struck out, and homered. So it's a case of a club really shutting down a player, as the Dodgers did with Denorfia, and then suddenly he has turned things completely around, and the Dodgers now struggle to get him out. That's right, 0-1. We were talking, if the Padres sweep the series, how it would be the first time that they swept the Dodgers here since 2006. So the logical question is, well, how did the Dodgers do that year? Well, the Dodgers were managed by Grady Little, and in 2006 they were first. Eventually gave it up to the Cardinals. Another bit of research on Clayton Kershaw, who gave up 3 home runs, interestingly enough, here at Dodger Stadium. The only other time that Clayton has allowed 3 home runs, it would be, as you might expect, in Colorado, May 2nd last year. Carlos Gonzalez hit 2, Willen Rosario hit the other, and the Rockies won that game. So the Padres lead 5-1 here in the 6th inning with 2 out. Fastball 1-2 the count. You knew there was trouble for Kershaw when he had made 42 pitches through the 3rd inning and then 34 pitches in the 4th. A lot of foul balls, 20 some odd, and he just was not getting the outs. breaking ball. Did he swing? Yes, he did. Eric Cooper rings him up. However, 1 run and the home run by Blanks. Another hit and a man left. And at the end of 5.5, 5-1 San Diego. Dodger Stadium, Tuesday, April 30th. First 50,000 fans in attendance at the game with the Rockies can take home their own I See You Hanley, compliments of Doritos, Dinamita, and for tickets visit Dodgers.com/promotion. Hanley has said he's going to surprise people as far as a quicker return than expected. We shall see. Brad Brock. Fastball, splitter, slider, has a bit of a deceptive move in the sense that he kind of pitches and falls away to third base. He'll be facing Punto, Sellers, and we'll see about Paco Rodriguez. Dodgers get left-hander J.P. Howell up. And that's a strike to Punto. Nick struck out, hit back to the box trying to bunt as Howell gets ready. 0-1 the count. Only Dodger run came in the third inning. Padres scored 3 in the fourth, and then 1 in the fifth, 1 in the sixth, while hitting 3 home runs. And that's lifted to shallow left. It'll be the shortstop Cabrera. And 1 out. Dodgers have left 8 men in their 5 innings. 2 on in the first inning, 1 in the second, 1 in the third, and then 2. And then, of course, the bases loaded in the 5th. And that is really the number to haunt Mattingly and company. The Dodgers are 1 for 17 with the bases loaded. And one year, their manager hit 6 Grand Slam home runs in one season. Tim Fedorovich just called up. The young catcher will get a chance to swing the bat when they put Chris Capuano on the DL. The thought being, since they're going to Baltimore, an American League team, they could have Fedorovich or Hernandez catch, and they could use A.J. Ellis as the designated hitter. That's a strike. 2-1. Justin Sellers single to center, fly to center, 1 for 2, hitting 184. Fastball, pop foul, no play. That's going to wind up in the stands. Sellout crowd pretty much sitting on their hands as it's been all Padres. 5 runs, 7 hits for San Diego, and a murmur of protest. 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. Tyson Ross went 4 2/3. Blanks has hit a home run. Brock now trying to shut the Dodgers down. 2-2. Fastball. Home runs by Blanks and Cabrera and Denorfia. So the Padres, with 3 home runs tonight, have now hit 10 and allowed 21. The Dodgers have hit 9 and allowed 10. 2-2. Fastball missed. Brock usually doesn't wander far off the rubber. He just gets the ball and steps back on. 3-2. Fastball sliced foul. That will go back into the crowd. Brock's delivery is in a hurry. His left leg comes up, and as he gets the ball, it suddenly hides from the hitter. And then when he finishes, he steps more towards third base than home plate. So I would think you're only going to see him maybe once or twice at the most in a game. And tough to pick him up when he's throwing strikes. Right in there, you lose it. And that's ball 4 for Sellers. So Tim Fedorovich will be coming up. Take another look at the delivery of Brock. The leg will come up.
Attention, please.
The ball disappears, and then he steps with that right leg way over towards third and tries to pull it back. So there's a lot going on out there on the mound, and the hitter trying to pick up the ball. Down in the bullpen, Joe Thatcher and Dale Thayer beginning to warm up. So Fedorovich hitting for Rodriguez. And ball 1. Five runs, 7 hits for the Padres, 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. Fastball and a good one foul back. That came up at 91. Fedorovich, out of the University of North Carolina, 26 years old. The Red Sox originally signed him, 7th round in 2008. And ball 2. Fedorovich won a gold medal in the World University Games with Team USA. That was back in 2006. With a name like Fedorovich, he immediately got the nickname FedEx. 2-2. Tim, 5'11", 205-pounder, born in Erie, Pennsylvania. Time. Two balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Sellers at first. Brock's fastball is hit to right center and deep. On the track is Denorfia to make the catch. And back to first goes Sellers. So Fedorovich, a long out to right center. And the batter will be Carl Crawford.
Left fielder, Carl Crawford.
Carl Crawford grounded to short, singled off Chase Headley's glove, stole a base, and scored the only Dodger run. Last time up, grounded to first. So Crawford checking in, hitting .389 with a home run, 2 runs batted in. And a high fly ball into deep right center. Venable to the track along with Denorfia for the catch. So 2 long fly balls, but for outs. And the Dodgers leave Sellers, though they have now left 9. And at the end of 6 innings, it's still 5-1 Padres. and Saturday coming in here at 4 o'clock on Prime Ticket. Sunday with the Orioles at 10:30 on Prime. Monday is an off day. Then they have 2 games in the afternoon at 4 at Shea Stadium, or now City, and that will be on KCAL on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Prime Ticket wraps it up on Wednesday. The Dodgers come home and open up Milwaukee, Colorado. They go to San Francisco, and then Arizona, Miami, and Washington. For the Dodgers, spending pitching, Kershaw, then Rodriguez, now Howell. Everett Cabrera will start it off. Strike. So Rodriguez came in, struck out 2. Matt Kemp, meanwhile, staying alongside of Ted Lilly. And Matt Kemp sitting down, and that one's over the bag, down the line. Cabrera on his way for 2, and Crawford just gets it back in to Justin Sellers. So Everett Cabrera with a walk, a double, and a home run. Just by the diving Punto. And hit number 1 of J.P. Howell. In last night's game, the Dodgers used Guerrier, Wall, Rodriguez, Jansen, and League. And the day before, Belisario, Rodriguez, Guerrier, Howell, and Wall. So it's just been the bullpen being burned up day after day. Combination of the starting pitching has been wobbly, and the offense has just not done the job. So Howell is right back in there. Headley with Mark Kotsay coming out. Kotsay will be batting for Brock. Remember, Brock and Venable came into the game at the same time. Venable batting 9th, and Brock in the 4th slot. 0-1 to Headley. Grounded to 3rd, walked, struck out, scored a run. Foul ball. 0-2 to count. We're in the 7th inning. It's 5-1 in favor of San Diego. Of their 8 hits, they have 3 home runs and a double. So Cabrera with his double, leading off the inning. You know, the point has well been made for the last 10 days or so about the Dodgers' inability to come up with a base hit with runners in scoring position. The Padres in this series are hitting .310 with runners in scoring position. And they've done it the hard way. 6 of 9 coming with 2 out. That's a big league pop fly. Mark Ellis, 1 away. And now Mark Kotsay will be coming up. So 1 away as they leave a man in scoring position. Headley goes 0 for 3 with a walk.
Mark Kotsay.
And Mark Kotsay, 37 years old, the son of a motorcycle patrolman of the LAPD. He's had a wonderful career, and he's far from through, hitting .615. So J.P. Howell facing Kotsay with Cabrera at second. Kotsay was born in Whittier and lives in San Diego. Went to Cal State Fullerton. That's a strike. Mark is an even 6, checks in about 210. He'll be 38 in December. Started playing pro ball in 1996. Came up to the Marlins in 97, and he's been pretty well in the big leagues ever since. 0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. Kotsay in the big leagues 1 year hit 17 home runs, but that was way back in 2002. One and one. Cabrera at second, 1 out. 5-1 San Diego. Yonder Alonso hits after Kotze. Breaking ball, but it stayed up. 2-1. Kotze, whose dad, as we said, was a motorcycle policeman. When he was 6 years old, he was a national champion off-road bicycle racer. 6. But when he was 7, he was missing too much school and he had to give it up. Strike, 2-2. Kotze at Cal State Fullerton set all kinds of college World Series records, and at one time he was the closer for Cal State Fullerton in the World Series. Made 11 saves in 21 appearances. 2-2. And there goes the runner Cabrera. The throw to third. He is safe. And Punto couldn't hold on to the ball, and let's see if Nick's okay. And Cabrera helps him to get up. The ball and Cabrera arrived at almost the same time, and the ball actually hits Cabrera as he goes in head first. Watch, right there. So Cabrera was the run really shaken up. Everett stealing third. Dodger infield has to play up with 1 out. 3-2 the count. And is probably hit into right center field for a base hit. So the remarkable Mark Kotze, who'll be 38, just comes off the bench and hits a rope into right center. And the stolen base is promptly cashed in. And the Padres now lead 6-1. And they're going to have a runner for Kotze, the pitcher Clayton Richard. So Kotze, a hero on the ball club, and they're waiting for the veteran, and they really give him 5s. So Howell gives up a run. And that's ball 1. Yonder Alonso has struck out twice and walked.
Clayton Richard.
Clayton Richard, the pitcher, running for Kotze. One and one. Big swing by Alonso. So the Padres 6 runs, 9 hits, no errors. The Dodgers 1 run, 6 hits, 1 error. Trying to sweep the Dodgers here for the first time since 2006, when they swept a first-place Dodger team. So I guess if Mattingly could get anything out of this, it would be the encouragement. They did it to a very good club that wound up first in 2006. Maybe the same will occur here. 2-1 to Alonso. And that stayed way up. 3-1. Alonso hitting .315. 2 home runs, 8 runs batted in, but 0 for 2 with a walk, and he has an 8-game hitting streak on the line. And that's in there, 3-2. Dave Roberts over to talk to the pinch runner, Clayton Richard, for the full count and 1 down. Can't imagine they would run Richard. Nope, he's not going. 3-2 to Alonso. For the Dodgers, Ryu, Beckett, and Billingsley in Baltimore. Then from Baltimore to New York for the Mets, and then home for Milwaukee and Colorado. 3-2. Got him. So for Alonso, it's been a tough night. He strikes out 3 times. He did walk. So Jed Jerko fly deep to center, hit into a double play, and fly to right. Jed hitting .226. To look ahead for the Dodgers in the 7th inning, Mark Ellis, Andre Ethier, Adrian Gonzalez. Remember, Matt Kemp did not start, has not played. And a line drive base hit down the line. Crawford does a good job of holding it to a single. So Jerko hits it hard. That's the 3rd hit in the inning.
Next, left fielder Kyle Blanks.
And Kyle Blanks coming up. Blanks grounded to 3rd, single to left, and hit a home run. 6 runs now and 10 hits for the Padres. They had 5 runs, 7 hits against Kershaw. They've added 1 against Howell. And here's Big Kyle hitting .455. Just recently called up from Tucson. They called him up when the Dodgers were playing in San Diego. 0-1 to Kyle. He has the home run tonight. 3 runs batted in. 0-2. To look ahead when the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 7th, Ellis, Ethier, Gonzalez. If anybody gets on, A.J. Ellis. Oh, and 2. Padres head for San Francisco after the game. Dodgers to Baltimore. The Western Division led by Colorado. Rockies 1 game in front of the Giants. And the Giants lost today to Milwaukee. 0-2. Ball 1. Colorado playing good ball. They're a perfect 5-0 at home. And they've won 10 and lost 4. Their game with the Mets postponed. A lot of bad weather. Colorado and Minnesota. Look out. Fastball hits him in the back, and the bases are loaded. So everybody moves up. Fastball got him just above the belt. Lowest part of the back. So Blanks at first. Jerko goes to second. Kotze's runner Richard goes to third. Rick Honeycutt gone out. He'll be pitching to Nick Hundley. So the Padres right on the edge are really breaking the game wide open. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Ronald Belisario begins to warm up. Dodgers scored back in the 3rd inning. Crawford singled, stole second. Ellis, Mark that is, singled into 3rd. And Gonzalez, foul fly ball down the left field line, scored Crawford. Otherwise, they haven't done anything. They did leave the bases in the 5th inning. They've left 9 in 6 innings. And they find themselves down by 5 and unable to stop the Padres. Padres have scored 3 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th. Hundley, no slams in his career. And a strike. So Clayton Richard is at 3rd. Jed Jerko is at 2nd. Kyle Blanks at 1st. And here's Nick. Oh and 1. Big overhand breaking ball, but he missed with it. 1 ball and 1 strike. Hundley struck out, was walked intentionally, and single to center. Fast one that had good sink to it. The two-seamer, 1-2 to count. Kershaw, Rodriguez, Howell, and Belisario in the pen. One and 2. Check swing, no swing, says Eric Cooper. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 3 on. Messrs. Richard, Jerko, and Blanks. And a scrambling stop by A.J. 3-2 the count. So they'll wind up the merry-go-round. Everybody goes. Richard, Jerko, and Blanks. Will Venable bats 9th in the Padre lineup. So Will is out on deck. Runners at the ready. There they go. And it's waved at and missed. So Hundley strikes out. Padres lead 3, but they still pick up 1 and lead 6-1. Bad time. They have beaten the Dodgers 3 of 5. They're trying to win tonight to make it 4 out of 6 and 3 straight at Dodger Stadium for the first time since 2006. So Joe Thatcher will now pick up for Brad Brock, and Thatcher will be facing Ellis, Ethier, and Gonzalez. For J.P. Howell, he made 30 pitches. And Mark Ellis followed by Ethier and Gonzalez facing Joe Thatcher. Meanwhile, J.P. Howell listening, getting more information, and a pat on the back. And we go to the bottom of the 7th. Mark Ellis struck out, single to center, fly to right. Mark hitting .288. Joe Thatcher, a veteran left-hander, 6'2", 230. He'll be 32 in October. Kind of sneaks a pitch in for a strike. Thatcher out of the Frontier League. He played for the River City Bandits in the Frontier League. A Brewer scout spotted him, and they decided to select him. Foul back. Thatcher came up in 2005, and he's been with the Padres just about all the time, with a couple of trips to Portland and Lake Elsinore. Oh, and 2. Fouled away. For Thatcher, when he came to San Diego, he replaced a very, very popular pitcher, Scott Linebrink. But Thatcher has a terrific personality, and he became a favorite. Little roller. Who's going to handle it? Cabrera, no. Headley might have had a chance, and maybe Cabrera hollered him off the ball. But anyway, it's an infield single for Mark Ellis. Andre Ethier coming up. No play. The paid attendance on Hello Kitty night, 52,393. Although from the looks of it, a lot of folks have decided to head for home. It's almost 10 o'clock. Ethier single to left, flied to left, and walked. Big roundhouse breaking ball. Ball 1. Looking at Joe Thatcher and his work against Andre Ethier. Andre is 2 for 13 against him. That would be a 154 batting average. This time he flares it to left. Here comes Blanks. Did he? Yes, he did. Third base umpire Chad Fairchild making the call. So Ethier is out. Nice play by Kyle Blanks. Big man moving, reaching, grabbing, and holding on. So after that nice play by Kyle Blanks with 1 out, Adrian Gonzalez has walked twice and had a scoring fly ball. The sacrifice fly came on a foul ball and a great catch by Jesus Guzman. Ball 1. 6 runs, 10 hits for the Padres, 1 run, 7 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. Kershaw, Rodriguez, and Howell, Ross, Brock, and now Thatcher. 1-1. Then looking at Joe Thatcher against Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian is 2 for 2 against him coming into the game. One and 1. 1-2. Hanley Ramirez, who said he'll surprise everybody, but we'll wait and see. And that's lined to center, and that's a base hit. Stopping at second is Mark Ellis. So the Dodgers have runners at first and second. Gonzalez is 2 for 2 on the night. You know, MLB.TV is celebrating 11 years. You can join the millions of fans. Subscribe today. Watch every out-of-market game live online on your favorite mobile and connected devices in HD quality with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV today. MLB.TV, baseball everywhere. So Joe Thatcher faced 3 batters, gave up 2 hits, might have been 3, except for the running catch by Blanks. Out he goes, and we'll be back. Jason Ross, then you had Brad Brock, then Thatcher, and now Thayer. So Thayer, number 4, born in Fountain Valley, lives in Huntington Beach, went to Cal State Chico, was drafted by the Padres in 2002. Originally drafted by the Cubs, but he returned to school, and then following a tryout camp, he signed with the Padres. Dale Thayer, 32 years old. He'll be 33 in December, facing A.J. Ellis. 2 on, 1 out. And the fastball misses. Dodgers trying to get back into the game somehow. They have left 9. And they have 2 on with 1 out in the 7th. And Thayer's now behind 2-0. With the Padres last year, he was 2-2. Spent a little time in Tucson. Two and 0. 2-1. Dale Thayer stayed in the minor leagues from 2004 until 2009, so almost 6 years. Briefly with the Rays in 9 and 10, briefly with the Mets, and with the Padres. 2-1. And another strike. 2-2. Skip Schumacher is on deck. Just missed with the fastball at 94. Thayer's an even 6. Padres had 2 guys 6'6". 3-2, 2 on, 1 out. And the fastball sliced to right center appears playable. Venable going over, and it lands between DeNorfia and Venable. And the Dodgers, holding on the fly ball, will have the bases loaded. It was confusing between DeNorfia and Venable, but it was also confusing to be a base runner. So you get the feeling it should have been caught, but it wasn't. And the Dodgers have the bases loaded. Low fastball lifted to right center. DeNorfia and Venable, and it bounced between them. A.J. is annoyed. He's thinking about the fact certainly he should have had some RBIs, but the runners also thought the ball might be caught. So the bases are loaded, and guess who is going to be dropped into the game? Matt Kemp. So the crowd welcomes Matt. He wanted to play tonight, but Don Mattingly said no. Relax, sit back, and just watch the game and forget about all the tension. But now, when the chips are down, here he is. Relax my foot. So Ellis at third, Gonzalez at second, Ellis at first, and here is Matt Kemp. And ball 1. How about Thayer and Kemp? Matt Kemp 0 for 2 in the past against Dale Thayer. Matt has 6 grand slams in his career. 2 years ago at Cincinnati. And ball 2. So the Dodgers trying to get out from under the weight of a 6-1 San Diego lead. To Ellis at the corners, Gonzalez at second. And ball 3. So Thatcher started the inning, gave up 2 hits, might have been a 3rd hit except for a fine diving catch by Kyle Blanks. He left for Thayer, who surrendered the base hit to A.J. Ellis, and the bases are loaded. 3-0 to Matt Kemp. And a strike. Come back. He thought it was low and away, but plate umpire Jeff Kellogg said no. 3-1 to Matt Kemp. And another strike. Matt with almost a puzzled look on his face. Thayer trying to get out of the trap. And the pain continues. The Dodgers are 1 for 18 with the bases loaded. Take a look at those pitches. There were 6 of them. Thayer missed with the breaking ball to be behind, missed inside with the fastball, missed again low, so 3-0. Then the fastball called a strike on the corner. Then the fastball called a strike on the corner, and the last one swung on and missed. So the Dodgers continue to spin their wheels. And the batter, Nick Punto, as Kemp takes the long, painful walk. Ball 1 to Punto. The Dodgers this year are now 1 for 18 with the bases loaded. Punto has struck out, hit back to the box and popped up. Nick 0 for 3. 2-0. That's a strike. 2-1. Nick with 1 slam. Mark Ellis at third, Adrian Gonzalez at second, A.J. Ellis at first, and a 2-1 pitch to Punto. 2-2. One for 18 with the bases loaded. That's such a minuscule batting average. Let's put it this way, 1 for 15 is .067. Little foul out of play. The Dodger batting average this year with the bases loaded 0.56. For a manager who hit 6 grand slams in 1 year. All right, 2-2 to Punto. Fouled away. Ross, Brock, Thatcher, and Thayer. For the Dodgers, Kershaw, Rodriguez, and Howell. Juan Uribe looks like he might come in wearing a helmet. Justin Sellers hitting behind Punto, and we have 2 out. Fouled away. That'll carry upstairs. Punto is not the kind of a guy who's going to get you back in the game with 1 swing. He's not a power hitter at all. He's had 15 home runs in his entire career. But a base hit could at least liven the Dodger offense and get them to where they're thinking they're back in the game. They've left 9 in 6 innings. Would be in danger of leaving 12 at the end of 7. Ball 3. So Thayer's kind of doing a high wire act. Went 3-2 with Kemp, struck him out, and comes right back 3-2 with Punto. Sellers waits on deck. So Mark Ellis, Adrian Gonzalez, A.J. Ellis, all out there waiting for a ride home. 3-2, 2 out. They'll all be going. Beaten foul into the dirt, and the battle continues. They're working on a new ball. This will be the 10th pitch coming up with the bases loaded. Three and two. Runners go. And it's lifted in the air. DeNorfia is there. And the Dodgers have left 12. And they're 1 for 19 with the bases loaded. And at the end of 7, 6-1 San Diego. A lot of muscle. First of all, there was a home run by Cabrera. There was a big home run by DeNorfia. And then finally, Kyle Blanks hit one that hit the second deck and kicked into the Dodger bullpen. Padres 6 runs, 10 hits. The Dodgers 1 murmur of protest, 9 hits in an error. Matt Kemp, who batted for Schumacher, stays in the game in center field, and we move along to the 8th inning. Will Venable followed by DeNorfia and Cabrera. Venable coming in the 6th inning, struck out 0 for 1. Little roller by the mound. Mark Ellis, too late. So Venable runs well, legs out a slow roller to second baseman Mark Ellis. Infield single for Venable. Take another look. Ellis, bare hand pickup, off balance throw, and just ahead of Gonzalez reception. So Venable will get a hit. 6 runs, 11 hits. 1 run, 9 hits for the Dodgers. J.P. Howell gives up the hit. And we'll see now Juan Uribe will come in. Sellers due up when the Dodgers bat in the 8th inning. Ronald Belisario is coming in. J.P. Howell is going out, and we'll be back. 2, trying to get some outs with Venable at first. The Dodgers also bring in Juan Uribe to play third base. So Belisario will go in Punto's spot, and Uribe will bat ninth, playing third. One of the things that the Padres have done on their way to trying to sweep, we're in the 8th inning and they lead 6-1. When Venable got aboard on that slow roller to Mark Ellis, he became the 14th Padre leadoff man to reach base in the 3 games, and 8 of them have come around to score. That's a strike. D'Onofrio has grounded out, struck out, homered, struck out again. No balls and 1 strike to Chris. Venable poised over there at first base. Venable has 1 stolen base. 1 ball and 1 strike. For the Dodgers, with Clayton Kershaw pitching tonight, they hope for 2 things. They hope for a victory, a quick game, and then that long all-night flight to Baltimore. They have gotten neither. There goes Venable. The throw not in time. So Venable steals second, and D'Onofrio has the count his way, 2-1. So Venable steals his second of the year. D'Onofrio trying to pick him up. 6-1 Padres, 8th inning. Fastball. 2-2. Dodgers got a run in the 3rd inning to lead briefly 1-0. Cabrera tied it with a home run leading off the 4th, and the Padres added 2 more to get 3, and they've never been headed. For D'Onofrio, a tough night. Although he hits a home run, he also strikes out 3 times. So 1 out, and Everett Cabrera popped up, homered, walked, and doubled. 2 for 3. We're in the 8th, 1 out. Cabrera and Headley. Ball 1. Dodgers had the left-handers Hershaw, Rodriguez, and Howell. Headley on deck, who's been batting right-handed, will bat left-handed with Belisario. One ball and no strikes to Everett Cabrera, hitting .286. And a base hit to right. Ethier plays it on a hop, and they will stop and hold Venable. So the Padres now have runners at first and third. Big game for Everett Cabrera. He has a walk, a single, a double, and a home run.
Third baseman number 7, Chase Headley.
So Headley will now bat left-handed. It's up to Belisario to get the outs. The Dodgers are not about to burn up any more pitching. Headley, in his first game of the year, grounded to third, walked and scored, struck out and popped up, all right-handed, now batting left-handed against Belisario. Immediately, the Dodgers have to watch Cabrera. We had a sellout crowd, I would say less than half, still in the ballpark. And ball 1 to Chase. Headley last year led the National League in runs batted in with 115. He was also the winner of a Gold Glove. He was an All-Star, and they discussed him as the possible MVP. So he had a big year. 1-0. Ball 2. Alexi Amarista is out on deck. He would bat for the pitcher, Dale Thayer. Two and one. So in the inning, Venable became the 14th leadoff man to get on base in the 3 games. Stoll second. Denorfia strikes out. Cabrera singles to put runners at first and third. And here's Headley. 2 balls, 1 strike. Dodgers have used Kershaw, Rodriguez, Howell, and Belisario. 2-2. That was a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. Headley has always been a good hitter, but he's been exceptional at Dodger Stadium. In his career, he's hitting .333 here with 6 home runs and 23 runs batted in. 1 out, 2-2. And they have to keep an eye on Cabrera. Belisario's made 11 pitches thus far. There goes Cabrera, and it's going to be hit into center field for a base hit. Scoring easily is Venable, and it is 7-1 San Diego on 13 hits. So Venable carries it in, and Headley continues his phenomenal hitting here at Dodger Stadium. Now Dale Thayer, of course, is due up, and Amarista will come up and bat for him. Amarista played second base and had 3 hits last night when the Padres scored 9. He also played the first game and had a walk and a single plus a sacrifice. So he's had a big series. Amarista batting for Thayer. Fouled away, 0-1. So last night the Padres put it to the Dodgers, 9 runs, 15 hits. Tonight, 7 runs on 13 hits. And in the first game, the Padres scored 6. So they've scored 22 runs in the 3 games. 0-1. Lifted into left field. That'll be Carl Crawford. So that's the fly ball for the second out. And the batter now will be Yonder Alonso, who is looking for a hit. He's the only one in the lineup without a hit. Not only that, Yonder, with an 8-game hitting streak, has walked and struck out 3 times. Ball 1. Cabrera at second, Headley at first. The Dodgers have been unable to stop the Padres from scoring since the 4th inning. 3 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th. And ball 2. Two balls, no strikes. And that's high, ball 3. Well, in this kind of a game, knowing that Alonso has not had a hit, Bud Black might green light him 3-0. We'll see. Nope, taken all the way. And ball 4. So Belisario has given up 3 hits, a walk, a stolen base, and a run. And the batter now is Jed Jerko, who fly deep to center, hit into a double play, fly to right, and single to left. So everybody in the starting lineup with a base hit except Alonso, who has walked twice. And a strike. For the Dodgers, the local time is 10:24, and we're in the 8th inning. Oh and 1. Ground foul outside of third. 0-2 to Jed. Jerko hitting .241, half a dozen runs batted in. Padres with the bases loaded with Alonso, Headley, and Cabrera. 2 out. Ground ball to third, Uribe to the bag, and they get the 4s. So the Padres get 1 and lead 7-1. To 1 lead. Alexei Amarista stays in the ball game, hitting in the number 4 spot, and Luke Gregerson is the new pitcher. So it's been Ross, Brock, Thatcher, Thayer, and now Gregerson. The Dodgers using Kershaw, Rodriguez, Howell, and Belisario. As Gregerson tunes up, the Dodgers will have Justin Sellers, then Juan Uribe, and Carl Crawford. 7 runs, 13 hits for the Padres. 1 run, 9 hits for the Dodgers. The Dodgers have left 12 in 7 innings. Sellers coming up has single, fly to center, and walk, 1 for 2.
Leading off the bottom of the 8th for the Dodgers, shortstop number 28, Justin Sellers.
The Sellers against Gregerson, as we're nearing the end of a ball game that was scoreless when the Dodgers picked up 1 in the bottom of the 3rd inning. But boy, was that short-lived when Cabrera led off with the 4th inning with a game-tying home run, and from that moment on, it's been all Padres, scoring in every inning starting with the 4th. And a strike to Sellers. Justin, a base hit, flied out, walk. Way out in front. 0-2 to Justin. Down in the Dodger bullpen, although they hate to use him, nevertheless, Kenley Jansen will have to get up and begin to air out. Jansen worked the 8th inning last night. Slider hit in the air, foul, back into the crowd. We did have a sellout crowd of 52,393, but that was at the start of the game. And with the Padres scoring in every inning since the 4th, the crowd has thinned out less than half. 0-2 to Sellers. Slider, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Luke Gregerson certainly has been around a while. He's been with the Padres since 2009, originally drafted by the Cardinals. He went to St. Xavier University in Illinois. 1-2. Waved out. So Sellers is fooled. Down he goes. 1 out in the 8th. And Juan Uribe coming up. Luke Gregerson, 6'3", 205-pounder. He'll be 29 the middle of May. And been in the big league since 2009. Juan Uribe hitting .214. And a strike. So the Padres are certainly looking like they're on their way to winning their 3rd straight, beating the Dodgers 4 of 6. The Dodgers are on the edge of losing their 4th in a row, 5 of 6, and 7 of the last 8 here at Dodger Stadium against San Diego. For Bud Black, a delightful moment, let's face it. And for the Dodgers, a bitter pill indeed. 0-2 to Uribe. Foul back. Still 0-2. Gregerson, the 5th pitcher for San Diego. Tyson Ross at 6'6", the boy from Oakland, pitched very well but couldn't quite make 5 full innings. Otherwise, he'd pick up a victory and go home and talk to the family in Oakland about it. That's hit in the air to right center. Denorfia has a bead on it. So Uribe a fly ball. 2 out in the 8th. And Carl Crawford coming up. With Gregerson, you get a good sinking fastball and a slider. Slider's pretty much his outside pitch. He gets him with that. Gregerson disagrees with the philosophy of many pitchers and pitching coaches. Coaches say use your fastball to set up your other pitches. But Luke says, no, I do the reverse. I set up my fastball with my slider. 2-0 the count to Carl Crawford. Grounded to short, singled off Headley's glove, scored the only Dodger run, grounded to first and flied to center. 1 for 4, hitting .382. Little ground ball backhanded by Gregerson, makes the play. And the Dodgers tiptoe out of the 8th. So we're heading for the 9th, 7-1, San Diego. the manager wants to do, but for Don Mattingly, he's forced to. In a runaway game, the Dodger pattern, of course, basically is Belisario pitched the 7th, Jansen pitched the 8th, and League pitched the 9th. However, it's been a bad game for the Dodgers, and they have to bring Jansen in to pitch the 8th. But now it's the 9th inning, and the game is 7-1 San Diego. So Kenley Jansen in his 8th game. He's worked 6 2/3 innings, ERA of 2.7. And Jansen will be pitching to Kyle Blanks, Nick Hundley, and Will Venable. And when the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 9th, Mark Ellis, Andre Ethier, and Adrian Gonzalez. So here's Big Blanks, grounded to third, single to left, homered, hit by a pitch, and made a fine diving catch of a ball hit by Ethier in the 7th inning. So the big man's had a big game. Kershaw, Rodriguez, Howell, Belisario, and Jansen. And ball 1. As we said earlier, the only consolation for the Dodgers tonight, there's 147 games left. 1 ball, no strikes. .91-mile-an-hour fastball. Pretty big swing by Blanks. Kyle Blanks' home run hit the tip of the 2nd level and wound up in the Dodger dugout. 1-1. Sliced foul upstairs off to the right. Another 91. 1-2 the count to Kyle. His home run was against Clayton Kershaw. One and two. Look, and he's hit again. So that's the 2nd time in the game that Blanks is nailed. He was hit in the 7th inning by Belisario, and now he is hit by Jansen.
Catcher number 4, Nick Hundley.
They're not going to hold Blanks at first. Adrian Gonzalez goes back well off the bag. Hundley has struck out, walked intentionally, singled, and struck out again. So the catcher 1 for 3. 0-1. 92-mile-an-hour fastball. Hundley off to a great start. Remember last year he struggled so much with the bat, they sent him out to Tucson. But boy, he's off to a solid start now, hitting .326. No balls, 1 strike. Just off the corner. 1-1. And that missed ball 2. One thing, the Dodgers have some company in their troubles hitting with runners in scoring position. The Tampa Bay Rays, now 5-9 with a win tonight, came into their game at Baltimore. Are you ready? Going 1 for 34 with runners in scoring position over the last 8 games. 1 for 34. Dodgers 1 for 19 with the bases full. So 2-2 the count to Nick Hundley. We're in the 9th. To complicate for the Dodgers, the game is now 3 hours and 30 minutes old. And nobody out in the 9th. Ball 3. Jansen not even close on that pitch, so Kenley's a little annoyed at himself. Waiting on deck, Will Venable. Three and two. Blanks takes his lead. Blanks not going anywhere, and the ball fouled away. Eugene O'Neill said it best, long day's journey into night. For the Dodgers, it's a long day's journey into night into day. They would be lucky to get off the ground at 1 o'clock in the morning, which is 4 o'clock in the morning, Baltimore. Well, Hundley strikes out for the third time, but that's only the first out in the ninth. So it'll be a weary group of blue arriving in Baltimore. They're fortunate for the day off, and then they pick up and play again Friday night. Venable has struck out, single, stolen a base, and scored a run since he came into the game, batting ninth in the position. And that's a strike to Will. 0-1. Venable batting .256. 2 home runs, 8 runs batted in. He had a home run and a bases clearing triple against the Dodgers in San Diego. Little ground ball right to Adrian. That will be the second out. On the play, Blanks advances to second base.
Center fielder, Kristen Orfia.
So Chris Denorfia coming up. Feast or famine for Denorfia. He has hit a home run, but he's also struck out a couple of times. 3 to be exact. To repeat, when the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the ninth, Mark Ellis, Andre Ethier, and Adrian Gonzalez. And that's ball 1. 52,393. 393 on this Hello Kitty night. One ball and no strikes. Check swing for a strike. 1-1. Jansen throwing consistently at 92. Dodgers shut the Padres down in each of the first 3 innings. They've been unable to do it ever since. So they're trying to get out of the 9th inning with a 0. Let's see. Ground ball. Up with it, Mark Ellis. And they get the third out, preventing Blanks from scoring. So we go to the bottom of the 9th. Ellis, Ethier, Gonzalez, 7-1, San Diego. A modest thing, but thine own. Clayton Kershaw strikes out Yonder Alonso, and that gave him the 1,000th strikeout of his career. But that was early in the game, second inning. The game certainly deteriorated and got away from him, and he did not get out of the sixth inning. The closer now comes in and asks to close with a 6-run lead. 7 runs, 13 hits for San Diego. 1 run, 9 hits, and 1 error for the Dodgers. Houston Street will pick up for Luke Gregerson while becoming the 6th San Diego pitcher.
For the Dodgers, second baseman, Mark Ellis.
So the Dodgers 1 run that came in the 3rd inning when Crawford singled off Headley's glove, stole second, advanced to third on a base hit by Ellis, and scored on Adrian Gonzalez fly ball that turned foul and was caught. A great play by Jesus Guzman. That's the Dodger run. So here's Houston Street and a strike. Mark Ellis struck out, single, fly to right, singled again. 2 for 4. That's hit in the air, foul, and go well back off to the right. First row, second level. No balls and 2 strikes. Dodgers today, among other things, put Chris Capuano on the DL, brought up Tim Fedorovich. Gary Hairston had been suspended for 1 game in the Greinke Quentin incident, and he served it tonight. And that's a little poke job right to Amarista. So Ellis, a looper to second, 1 away. And the batter, Andre Ethier. Dodgers left 12 men in the first 7 innings. Ethier single to left, flied to left, walked, and lost a base hit in left on a diving catch by Kyle Blanks. So Andre 1 for 3. And ball 1. One and 0. 2-0. Adrian Gonzalez on deck, followed by A.J. Ellis. Crawford and Kemp, very quiet, as you would imagine. That's ball 3. Adrian Gonzalez waiting on deck, has 2 walks, a single, and a sacrifice fly. So Gonzalez working on a perfect night as Ethier draws a walk. So Ethier at first, and here's Adrian. In case you wonder about Gonzalez going head-to-head with Houston Street, Adrian 167. He is 1 for 6. Fastball strike, 0-1. A.J. Ellis on deck. Should either Gonzalez and or Ellis get on, Matt Kemp, who had the night off and was then called in to pinch hit and struck out with the bases loaded in the 7th inning, Matt would have one more chance. 1-1 to Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian hitting .396, and the breeze has come up now, blowing left to right as we had all night. Right now it's a breeze, not that strong wind that we had last evening. 2-1 to Adrian Gonzalez. Ninth inning, 1 out, 7-1 Padres. Sweeping the Dodgers here perhaps for the first time since 2006. That's foul back. 2-2. In the dirt, ball 3. New supply of balls brought up to Jeff Kala. 3-2 the count. 1 out, 9th inning, 7-1 Padres. Fastball hit into left field for a base hit. What a bit of hitting. That looked like the ball was down and away, and Gonzalez just stroked it the other way. Take another look. Yeah, down there and away. That might have been ball 4, but instead it's his 3rd base hit. And talk about using the field. Adrian's had a scoring fly ball down the left field line, single to right, single to center, single to left. So a showcase bit of hitting. Here's A.J. Ellis with 1 out, 2 on, and Matt Kemp on deck. And ball 1. Ross, Brock, Thatcher, Thayer, Gregerson, and Street. Kershaw, Rodriguez, Howell, Belisario, and Jansen. 7-1 Padres. 1 ball and no strikes. And ball 2. Dodgers with 1 out have Ethier at second, Gonzalez at first. 2-0 count to A.J. Ellis. Ellis is 2 for 3 with a walk. And suddenly ball 3. Three and 0 to A.J. And ball 4, which means for the second time tonight, the fellow who was going to have the night off, Matt Kemp, will be coming up. Kemp came over the bases loaded in the 7th inning and struck out. Remember, the Dodgers are 1 for 19 with the bases full. Luis Cruz comes out on deck to hit for Jansen. Matt Kemp, a half a dozen grand slams. The last one a year ago in Cincinnati. And strike 1. Down in the San Diego bullpen, Anthony Bass begins to throw. And a fly ball to right center, very playable. Moving over is Venable for the catch. Tagging up at third and coming home to score is Ethier. That makes it 7-2 in favor of the Padres. And Kemp gets a sacrifice fly and a run batted in. So 2 down. The lead is 7-2. And the batter now, Luis Cruz, batting for Jansen. Cruz hitting 103. 2 on, 2 out. Fastball for ball 1. 7 runs, 13 hits for the Padres. 2 runs, 10 hits for the Dodgers. They're going to check. No swing, 2-0. So Houston Street struggling a little bit in the extent he's made 22 pitches. But he needs one more out. And fouled away. In this game tonight, if you add them all up, 377 pitches coming up right now. And he goes to 3-1. Two on, 2 out, 3-1 to Cruz, 7-2 Padres. Fouled away. Well, it's almost 11 o'clock. So if you're a Dodger, you look and you say 11 o'clock. We would be lucky to get off at 2, maybe almost 2:30, which makes it 5:30 in Baltimore. Runners go, and they finish up the game with a strikeout. The Dodgers leave 2 more, so they wind up leaving 14 as the Padres sweep a 3-game series. 7-13-0 for San Diego. 2-10-1 for the Dodgers. Dodgers will be broadcasting from Baltimore on Friday. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good evening.